Hi, and welcome everybody. Happy Tuesday. I don't know if it's like this for you, Gianna, but I every time I talk about what day of the week it is, I really have to stop and be like, wait, is it?
Yeah. I mean, I literally woke up this morning and I was like, it's Tuesday. It took a while. It really does these days.
Yep. Some days it'll be like, okay, I'm right. I don't have to think about it much, but a lot of days I really have to think. So it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome. And we are so glad to be here. I'm here today with the amazing Gianna, which we're going to have her introduce herself in a minute. But we're going to be talking today about meditation practices and trying to demystify it and helping you get the confidence and courage to start and maintain a meditation practice, especially as it relates to helping you reduce stress in your life. So if you are like most people in the world, you're feeling a little bit of stress these days, right? So I want to just do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we're going to get into this and have some discussion. And so if you are watching us on Facebook, you should see that you can comment just like you would on any live, but we are using a program called StreamYard. And so we need you to just grant StreamYard access. So you'll just click, there should be a little thing on top of the comments. Just click on that. It takes you to another screen. You just say yes, it brings you right back. What that does is it allows us to see when you comment, who's commenting, because we want to interact with you. And this is really like, we just were talking about this before we went live. We really want this to be impactful and meaningful for you. So if you've got questions, if you've tried something and you have a concern and you're like, hey, this is what stops me, we want you to put that in the comments so that we can be addressing that as we talk. So just to start out, we want to make sure the comments are working. So let us know where you are watching us from, and welcome. We're so glad to have you. My name is Kelly Abanda. I am the CEO and founder of this work from home collaboration. And we've brought together a bunch of experts to help you learn how to really thrive in a work from home environment, especially during these chaotic and stressful times. And Gianna is one of our amazing contributors in that project. So Gianna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your part in this work from home group is?
Absolutely. And I'm going to keep myself on mute if I'm not talking, because I have two puppies who I'm still training not to bark. So we're all familiar with the work from home interruptions these days.
That's right.
Yeah, so my name is Gianna Biscontini. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. And I used to have, I'm the former founder of WorkWell. It's an analytics and advisory agency for employee well-being, performance, and retention. So essentially, we are going into agencies and companies and evaluating the environment to understand what influential variables were pushing behaviors in one way or another. And as we understand it, if we can control and modify the environment, that does have a huge effect on our behavior. So we're really approaching well-being from that perspective, right? Of the yoga and the salads and all that is fantastic, all of that. But you know, if you walk into an office and it symbolizes a stressful stimulus every day, you're in a stress response for a really long time, and you get to those allostatic stress response levels, which we wanted to change the way people work, right? Sometimes people just want to go home on time. And that's a big stress reducer, as opposed to, you know, all the other perks that companies are throwing out there. So it really does all have to be individualized. So I just shut down the company a couple weeks ago because I was offered an opportunity I couldn't refuse to go head up the knowledge arm of Courageous Brands. We're starting Courageous Leadership, which is going to be housed under Courageous Brands, founded by Ryan Berman. You guys can all look him up. He's fantastic. He's got a book called Return on Courage, which I absolutely love. I've known him for a couple years. And we always wanted to work together, and he just gave me a great opportunity. So I'll be the resident behavior analyst there for really just a new way of looking at leadership, including well-being, including the human infrastructure things like empathy and compassion and relationship building. And we were kind of going in this direction anyway before COVID hit. And now I think we are definitely there. I just don't see any going back to the command and control ways of leadership. So I'm very excited to help rebrand what strength looks like and what leadership looks like, and to bring a little bit more well-being into the workplace.
That's amazing. And I can't wait to hear just like how things develop, because I am with you 100%. I can't imagine that things are going to go back to the way they were. Or normal, as some people might say, after we've been through this season. And my big hope is that as workers, I mean, definitely from a leadership and management standpoint, that there's a different way of looking at things and what's important. And it isn't just about giving a bunch of perks, but it's about that daily, what do you do to create an environment that is not so stressful for people, but also on the workers' end, that people can feel empowered to be like, listen, I've found the advantages of this work from home lifestyle, and I don't want to give those all up. And so I'm gonna advocate for myself to have a different kind of, work life.
Yeah,
moving forward.
absolutely. I think, we are really seeing a turn. First of all, being in the well-being space and having a well-being company for a couple of years, I really got in at that early adopter phase when it just started, on that uptick, where people were really starting to invest in well-being programs. And over the last, I would say, especially the last couple of months, but before that, over the last year, I think 2019 really, we saw a huge uptick in interest in our assessments and that type of thing. So yeah, I always talk about organic food, right? And now that we have all that research, we're never going to get to the point where we put the chemicals back in the food because it's a good idea, right? Nobody's ever going to say, let's just put the cancer-causing chemicals back in the food because that worked. I don't really see it going back to, hey, let's stress people out and have them work for 15 hours a day and take them away from their families and only give them 1 week of vacation a year that they're never going to take anyway. So COVID really just kind of hit the gas up that curve. So I think everybody is going to be just out of pure necessity adopting this model of, we've talked about it for so long. And, Kelly and I talked about this the other day of this situation has really been a shove off the status quo cliff. We've had research. We intuitively know that things need to change, but sometimes, we need some really strong consequences or a really strong push for us to say, well, now we're forced, right? We don't have a choice. We have to create technology to work from home. We have to focus on well-being and mental health and social connection. We have to focus on all these other things if we want our employees to continue to perform and to stay with our company and to enjoy what they do. So it's a really equalizing time. It's been really interesting to watch.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see as things progress. And so you did a series of 3 courses inside this work from home bundle around understanding stress and how it impacts us, and then how to start using meditation and maintain meditation as a way of dealing with stress. And so as you were just talking about, sometimes we need things to really push us to the edge or over the edge for us to actually start doing something differently. And what I hope for today is that we help people before they get to that edge, before they go over that edge with the stress, that these are some ways of backing up and saying, listen, I don't have to wait until that point. Or maybe you're already there. Maybe all the stuff that's been happening makes you feel like, I know in one of your 3 courses, you talk about burnout and the effects of burnout, and it's physical exhaustion, performance decline, and cynicism, feeling like you don't really have hope that things are going to change. And I imagine some people who are watching may be feeling those things already. So they're at the place where they've got to engage some new tools. And so for the people who are either at that point or nearing that point of burnout, what would you say are some of the first things that they should start doing to reframe some habits?
That's a great question. It can feel like a tidal wave, right? Of it's piling up and piling up. And I don't think, humans are created to run on adrenaline sometimes, right? I remember I had, before I started my company, I went to Europe for a month. And I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day and going for runs and doing all these crazy things. And I had such a crazy amount of energy. And literally the day I landed back in San Diego, I walked to the door of my house at 2 p.m. and fell asleep until the next day. And I didn't know that I was running on adrenaline, right? I was surrounded by all this fun stuff and I was having the time of my life. And my body was just like, all right, we got to do this. We got to be here. And I think we're in that phase now, although it's not an enjoyable trip to Europe. It's something much more intense and stressful. But I think we're in that phase where it's just like, I've got my kids at home. I've got my spouse here. I've got my job. And we're running on this stress. And even if we feel like, okay, I'm okay right now, I'm getting this, you get a spike eventually, right? Yes. Like, I don't think any of us really realize how deep we are in this stress response because we're just created to get it done, right?
Yes.
Like adapt.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us, we had the stay-at-home orders here in San Diego, and I was like, 2 weeks, fantastic. I'm just gonna
got this.
Gonna hang out with my dogs, and then it was like a month, and then it's month 2, and we're going into month 3. So we don't really have an endpoint. So I think that I see more fear and stress responses increasing with people because it's whoa, every day that goes by, this is getting a little bit more ambiguous. And then now they're talking about second waves. So if you're feeling, first of all, check in with your body. A lot of us, just like, me when I was traveling and running the adrenaline, like I didn't realize it. So check in with your body. Are you clenching your teeth? Are you clenching your fists? Are you holding your breath? That's how I can tell if I'm getting to that place of overwhelm. Checking in with your body is really, really important. Your body will give you that message of, yes, I am clenched. I am in a stress response. I'm holding my breath. And after you check in with your body, I think it's important to not judge what you feel. Oh, I'm stressed out. I should be better than that judgment. And your brain automatically just kind of grasps onto that and attaches, and then you start that spiral of negative, right? And that judgment. So you can catch yourself and say, okay, I'm noticing this. I'm not judging it. I'm just in this space. I feel a little bit of stress and overwhelm. If you can talk to someone about it, it doesn't have to be a full-blown therapy session with a professional. It can be find some sort of social connection, right? There's a Harvard adult study, which is awesome. And it's the longest running longitudinal study on health and happiness. And what they see, study after study after study that they've conducted in the same way for 90 years, I think, is the number one indicator, the number one variable that produces illness. It's not that people don't get sick and eventually pass away. It just happens later on in life, right? So the number one variable to prolong that physical and mental illness is social connection, deep, meaningful relationships. It doesn't mean you're prom king or queen. It doesn't mean you've got a million friends. It means when I'm talking right now and you're hearing me say this, you're thinking, I know who I'm going to call, right? I've got people or just one person. They're always there for me. They're my rock. They're my person who listens to me. I can call them at 3:00 in the morning. And it's not only picking up the phone and just having that person, it's how do you even start that conversation? How do you say, I'm really stressed out? It all seems so commonplace, but this is such an unprecedented time. I think that starts with a text message of saying, hey, I could really use I would love to talk with you today. I could really use, just some of you, right? Some of your energy. And then, I don't think that anyone in the world right now is like, easy breezy. I'm not feeling any of this, right? I think once people open up to somebody else, it gives that person permission to open up as well. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a negative spiraling of like how bad the world sucks right now, right? It can still be, this is what I'm experiencing and this is what I'm feeling and I'm feeling this too, right? So sometimes we think, even though we intellectually know that we're not the only person that feels that way, it still feels that way. It still feels lonely. I live alone. Well, I've got 3 animals in the house, but who I talk to on a regular basis. They're great listeners, by the way. So, especially if you're alone, it can feel very lonely if you don't have anyone to talk to. And that really will change your mental and physical health very quickly. It can push you into a little bit of a depression. Noticing that you're not enjoying the things that you used to enjoy, noticing that you're going to junk food a little bit more, noticing that you're a little bit more fatigued. I mean, these are all kind of those red flags of, hey, this is happening. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. Just noticing where you are is really important. So after you're kind of checking with your body and not judging how you're feeling, and after you're talking to someone and you're kind of venting and you're getting back to that baseline of, okay, I feel better. I feel like my stress bucket's kind of empty or empty-ish. I think that's a great time to start a meditation practice. And why? Meditation is very simple. It is not easy. I say this all the time, probably 10 times in the courses. It's simple. It's not easy, right? And when people say, I don't have time, well, now everybody has time. But when people used to tell me, I don't have time to meditate, or I just don't like it. I'm more of a doer, right? We give ourselves that like martyrdom pat on the back of,
Yes.
I'm very important and I have a lot. A lot of people count on me and I don't have to sit around and do nothing.
Yes.
But meditation isn't doing nothing, right? Everything that we do is a behavior. So meditation is sitting down and training your mind to focus on one thing. The second thing what people will say is, well, I can't stop my mind. I can't empty my mind. I don't know where this came from. Don't empty your mind, right? That I think causes force. When anything that you're thinking, you just kind of shove, and then that judgment comes. Oh, this sucks. I can't do this. This is hard. I don't like this. Then that becomes an aversive activity. And guess what? You're probably not going to go back to it tomorrow because it took a lot for you to get there in the first place. This is why I'm all about creating a really fun, enjoyable, relaxing space. Per research, it only takes around 8 minutes is when you start to see the state effects of meditation. That calm, that increased focus, over time. You'll see that eventually after about 8 minutes. So sit down for 8 minutes, create a space, right? I try to involve the senses. So I have a really comfortable pillow I sit on. I have a special place in my house where there's like a ton of greenery and a ton of plants. I love nature. I'll burn like Palo Santo or anything that you enjoy smelling. Just create that time for yourself. And that will make it so much more likely that you will look forward to going to meditate every day. So you've got your space and you're kind of sitting down. And emptying your mind isn't a thing. Our brains aren't wired to control them. If I said, hey, Kelly, you and I want to tone up for bathing suit season or whatever, like, let's go get some muscle. We know how to do that. We can do bicep curls. We can do abs. We can do squats. That's very easy. You and I we all have control over our physical bodies. Having control over our minds is very, very difficult.
Yes.
So that when your mind starts kind of wandering, bringing it back, consider that a squat or a bicep curl or, a crunch for your brain. Your mind is supposed to wander, and bringing it back is that act of mindfulness. And as you bring it back, you build that cortical specificity in your brain where essentially it just allows you to not never get distracted, but when you notice something, you can go, oh, that, the kid's crying or my phone's going off, and you're redirecting your focus back to one thing. Mm-hmm. Why is this useful?
So can I just ask a question about, so when you're talking about focusing on one thing, what would be an example of one thing that you would want to bring your mind back to?
So sometimes people like to keep their eyes open during meditation, and some people like to have them closed. Usually beginning meditators have more success with their eyes open because once you close your eyes, there's just something about the grocery list and you got to do this. Yeah. So if you're opening your eyes and you have something visual to focus on, it's a lot easier. Literally anything, right? But I like to ask people to pick things that don't evoke a lot of internal conversation, right? If I pick a picture of my parents and put them in front of me, I'm thinking, oh man, I miss my dad. I miss my mom. What can I say? Oh, remember that trip that we went on, right? It's the equivalent of if you're working from home, it's playing Mozart instead of a song with lyrics, because a song with lyrics can help elicit memories, right? It's a song about, I don't know, going to a beach. You're like, oh, the beach, and you're gone, right? Yes. But if you're listening to just the music, you're much less likely to have any like memory or like internal thoughts evoked by that. So if you're looking at a visual stimulus, like a rock, a candle, a flower, something that doesn't bring to mind like a ton of conversation, because that can be counterproductive.
Okay, so the visual focus. So I'm looking at a candle. It's calming. It's not bringing other thoughts. And then my mind wanders and goes, oh, I forgot to do this thing. Oh, yeah, that's right. I need to talk to this person later. Oh, yeah. So anytime that thought comes, then you just redirect and look at that candle again.
Yes. And I would always pair it with some sort of a word that is kind. Even if there's, you can use like a Donald Duck voice. You can, you just something, right? A lot of people say, oh, you label that thought, right? So, there I go. Oh, thought. and then bring it back. I find that, at least for me, boring, but you want to do something where you're not judging yourself, right? So I sometimes recommend that instead of judging yourself, if you can't help but judge yourself, change the voice, right? Like a funny voice or something like that, because it immediately derails that negativity, and you can laugh, right? You are not supposed to be able to do this right away. There are Olympic level meditators who still have to practice doing this, right? So like, let's drop all the ego and get over it. I don't care how smart you are, how capable you are. This is something that's very, very difficult, and it's a new skill. You know, if you've got a baby and they're starting to walk, you're not going to yell at them because they're not running in the Olympics yet, right? That's the equivalent. You're a baby taking your first steps. So when my mind wanders, I'll go, oops, and I kind of laugh at myself and bring it back to, to that focus. It just makes it so much more enjoyable instead of getting into that thought process of, God, you suck at this and this is terrible, because you're not going to go back the next day. It's not how behavior works.
Yeah, I mean, it just thinking about it that way, like if I'm like, oh, you see, you're distracted again. Like what's the next thought after that? My next thought after that isn't going to be a positive one. It's going to keep going down that negative side, right? So if you can instead, I love the idea of having like a Donald Duck voice. So like, would that just be something like, well, I can't do Donald Duck, but you just be like, oh, look at, I got distracted, and then go back.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to find their own thing. I'll tell you two examples. I was coaching a Navy SEAL the other day, and he kind of gets in this really harsh, internal dialogue where he tells himself these stories of like, you're useless and like you suck and blah. And it's like obviously not true. He's a very successful, intelligent guy. So we gave him a name, and I said, what's a name that you want to like name this piece of yourself? And he said, Bernard. I said, okay, well, when Bernard's around, like Bernard sucks, right? Like Bernard's not welcome. That is kind of who you were, and that's a piece of you, which is okay. We have a lot inside us, right? We're an amalgamation of a lot of different things. So Bernard's coming around again, right? And now we talk about him as if he's like the friend that we don't like, but he's like still hanging out with us for some reason.
This guy again.
Exactly. Like, oh, Bernard's here. And if any Bernards are out there, no, I love the name actually. But he chose that name. So there was that. And then I actually was working with a teenager with autism years ago. And he was experiencing the same thing of being in a social setting. He was very aware of this social communication disorder. He did not have the skills at that point to converse like you and I would, but he would beat himself up over it and get in that negative rabbit hole. So the intervention that we came, and he loved drawing. So he drew a burrito that as the burrito was running, he would, how do I say this? I'll just say it. He would poop little beans. That made him laugh. We were just talking and in this dialogue, and I was trying to think of something that would, just take him out of himself and make him laugh and just be human and kind to himself. And he came up with this burrito that poops beans, and it made him laugh every single time. So whenever he was in those social settings, starting to engage in that, like, oh, like, I don't know how to do this. Like, why can everybody, interact and I can't? He would think of that burrito. And it just took him out of that moment a little bit, right? Instead of going down that rabbit hole.
I'm typing in the chat. I want to know what people's fun redirects might be.
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything, even thinking about a person, in the course, I talk a lot about values. I absolutely love guiding everything by our values. And if you're someone, say, for example, who values family, and you're saying, when I am under stress, like one of my stress related behaviors, I just yell at my kids. I'm so much more likely to yell at my kids. I yell at my kids more often when I'm under stress, and that doesn't feel good to me. If your value is, being a good parent and family, use that when you're sitting down and you're saying, this is going to make me a better parent, right? Because, sitting down and meditating in itself is the pre-work to something else. So you can take that off of the mat or off of the pillow and make the world better by being a better version of yourself. So eventually, if you meditate for long enough and you become more mindful, the idea is that when you're stressed out and you're in this state, maybe you notice it and then you go meditate. If you miss that part, and your kid, spills milk or drops something, you catch yourself. You don't have that knee-jerk reaction of, like, why do you always drop stuff? You notice, you stop, you give yourself that 5 to 7 seconds, and you choose a different response. If you do that more, that's just so naturally rewarding of, wow, I would have just totally flipped out at my kid, 3 months ago, but I can stop and realize that that is not the end of the world. Kids drop things. This is my stuff. Okay, it's fine on me. Let's clean it up, right? And you can choose a better response.
Yeah. So in the, like, for somebody who's just beginning and they do this, they've got the candle, they've got their fun redirect. So they know when they get distracted, they're not going to be hard on themselves. They're going to refocus. And you're suggesting at least do 8 minutes. So as you're beginning, because I think another thing that I know myself and other people I've talked to about meditation, one of the things that we can get, that can get in our way is thinking about what are we supposed to be accomplishing during this meditation session. And if we feel like we don't get that goal, then we give up, or we're like, oh, see, it's not going to work for me. But I'm guessing there's some ways to reframe that. So what would you say to that person who's like, yeah, it's just, this is just not going to work?
Yeah, I would ask them to think about how long they've done it. It's like anything, right? If there was a quick and easy way to, losing weight, making money, being successful, like if there's a quick and easy way to anything, the world would be very different, right? Even finding a partner or creating a family or building a home, like everything takes time. And I think especially as Americans, we're in this space where, and this is, I think, where the silver lining for COVID is we all slow down a little bit, but we're always in this like bigger, better, faster, more efficient, like just take a pill, just, go right to it. And we've been, even with food, right? Like cheap and easy, everything needs to be cheap and easy. And we've become, I think, really expectant of everything should always go my way and it should be very quick and on my time frame. And that's not how our bodies work. That's not how life works. That's not how nature works. So, I would say everything is a process. If I want to, lose 5 pounds, I'm not going to go to the gym one day and come back home and weigh myself and be like, why don't I have my perfect body? Why haven't I lost 5 pounds? It takes a long time. And this is why I always say, like, align it with your values and enjoy the process. Enjoy the parts of it that are terrible, right? What else can you learn throughout this process? I've learned so much over the last 4 years of meditating. I learn more about myself all the time and how I'm not as patient as I think I am or want to be. And I don't trust the process as much all the time. And just keep, it's a slippery slope. Everything is a practice. You don't want to speed through to the end of life and then be like, I won. That's not the point, right? Like you don't like get to the finish line and like get the pot of gold for doing everything properly and being perfect. That doesn't happen. Life it's a journey. It's a path. You can enjoy something about every moment and take something from it, even the negative stuff. So I would say, first of all, if you're saying this doesn't work, I don't like this, ask why, for everything, right? Why? Well, I thought I could do this and I can't. I thought this would be more enjoyable. I thought I'd see results faster, right? What else do I hear? I just don't like doing nothing. It's that there's just I can't control my thoughts. Yeah, I can't control my thoughts. And it's like, guess what? You're not supposed to be able to control your thoughts. All you have to do is just notice when they're off track and bring them back to that space and be kind to yourself about it. And not every single time, that's a squat, that's a bicep curl, you're learning a new skill and retraining your brain to act differently. And you're inhibiting a stress response essentially, but it takes time. So that's why I say, like, create the space that you love, right? Like if you can involve a spouse or your kids or a friend and like, okay, if I meditate for 10 days in a row, like, can you do the dishes for me? Or like, can I get an extra hour, at the end of the day or whatever? There's a lot. And, it's a lot to go into. It's outside the scope of today, but it goes through everything in the course of all the different ways you can build that and build in your values, build in a reward system, engage other people in your life. And how can you keep that going over time? Because a reward that works for you this week, next month might not. You become habituated to it or you become satiated on it, right? It just doesn't matter anymore. So you always kind of have to stay on top of it. If the rewards aren't working, change it up. So it's a whole process, which is why it's a 3-course, which is 3 course series, because there's a lot that goes into learning a new behavior, and not only learning it, but maintaining it over time so that you can actually get to the point where you see results.
Yeah. So I'd imagine, so these were all really good, thinking about like the person who's never tried meditation or has maybe tried but given up really quickly. Okay, so we're telling you, don't give up, keep going back, alter your expectations. This is not an overnight thing. It takes time, and you are doing small actions consistently to create a bigger impact. So you may not see the results that you think you are going to see right away. It's going to take some time. So now I want to talk about like how you just mentioned the people about maintaining, like how do you do this over a long haul? So I imagine there's also a whole group of people who get into meditation. They get through this first block of like, it's not moving fast enough. They let that go. They let the benefits come over time, but then maybe they reach a point where they're like, oh yeah, I got what I needed. I have better stress responses. Maybe I'm just going to let this go now. And I'm gradually like moving away from practicing. Mm-hmm. So what about this group of people? What are a couple of things that you might say? And we know, obviously, in the course, you go in so much more depth, and I'll talk about it before we're done. Your courses are so powerful. They've helped me personally. I've used them in the last couple of weeks when I was having a lot of stress and getting off track. Like, they really helped me get back on track. So we'll talk more about that at the end. But what about these people who they maybe had a thriving meditation practice at one point, but they walked away?
That would be me. It will happen. I mean, I think the novelty, if you can get into like, okay, I'm going to start a meditation practice. I'm into this. I'm bought in. Like I'm ready to try, and you do it. I think it's really easy, just like anything else, right? Just like I want this great relationship, so you work on it with your partner, and then it drifts. I want to lose, I want to be healthier and like lose some weight, and you do it, and then it drifts. Behavior drifts. There's literally like a methodology like for behavior drift, which is why maintaining and generalizing skills is just as important as learning the skill in the first place. This isn't like riding a bike, right? Like where you just can get on 10 years later and you're like, yep, still the same. So I actually did fall off my meditation practice when I started my company because I was really busy. And even though it's sitting, breathing, and focusing for 8 minutes, and I was doing all this other stuff, it just seemed like it was just one more thing to do, and I couldn't do it, which is just untrue. But I was telling myself that story of like, well, I'll do it later, or I'll do it tomorrow, and my behavior drifted because I got into this practice. I've done yoga for 10 years. Love it. I would say 4 months of meditation changed my life more than yoga ever did. And I'm from the Northeast. I'm Italian. Like I am the person that said meditation's not for me. It looks pretty stupid. Like I'm not going to sit around and do nothing and breathe. Like I've got other things to do. I'm a naturally caffeinated, like alert, hyper human, super driven, ambitious. I was like sitting for 8 minutes. No thanks. But when I finally got to do it, I had just read Into the Magic Shop by James Doty and Altered Traits by Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson. Definitely check those out. It's all in neuroscience and everything, which I incorporate into the course. So I did it for a couple of months and I got so into it, it influenced me to start my company. And then ironically, the practice fell off. So after about, I would say 3 or 4 months of really not meditating consistently, I noticed more irritability. I noticed more distraction. I noticed less clarity. I used to wake up every day and say, I'm doing like, this is where I'm going with my business. This is what I need to do today. Just the skies had really cleared for me mentally. And physically, I just felt so much more calm and peaceful, but also still really energized and driven, which I loved about meditation. All of that kind of went away. Meditation, as we talk about in the course, is dosage dependent. So, it's like antibiotics, right? They always say, don't stop, but feel better, right? Like take the whole 10 days. If you have a virus and after day 3, you're like, wow, I feel better. And you can go for a run and you can live your life. Don't stop taking the pills. Like that's what helps you. And then you have to run the course. Although for antibiotics, you stop taking them eventually. Meditation, once you stop, like it will taper off. So the effects are dosage dependent. The more consistently you do it and the longer amount of time per day you do it for, the more you'll see the effects. And that's all in the research in the course, which is really interesting. So I would say if you have gotten to the place where you've drifted, please know everybody does it. Like that's normal behavior drift. Every single human does it. It is predictable. I would ask yourself first question, why did why did this drift? Either I'm telling myself it's too hard to do now in this phase of my life. You got a new job or you adopted a puppy or something, like something happened that you threw that practice out the window, even if it's just 8 or 10 minutes. It seemed effortful and you told yourself that you didn't have time. It's either that or I got really busy and I actually really enjoy it, but my space, the practice wasn't as enjoyable as it was in the beginning. Then it's an environmental issue, right? Okay, how can you switch up your space? How can you different rewards? Who else can you go back to your coworkers or your roommate or your friend or your spouse that you originally engaged and say, hey, are you still meditating? Yeah, me neither. Like, let's start again, right? Like, let's do this together. Let's do it for 3 weeks and try it. And getting started is the hardest part. And then you start to feel, at least I did, after, oh God, maybe a couple of days of getting back into the meditation, I was like, why did I stop this? Like, why did I ever stop this? Out of everything in my life, I'll go out for drinks with my friends for 2 hours, but I can't meditate for 10 minutes. Like, really? So yeah, I mean, I redid my values assessment. I worked, meditation back into my values and back into my day. I switched up my space and I go over all that in the course too. But yeah, that's what I would recommend is asking yourself what those barriers are and what derailed you in the first place.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I definitely appreciate that you are honest about your own practice, because I know like it's something that you and I talked about offline. Another thing that can surround meditation is like this idea that anybody who practices meditation is just like Zen, Lululemon wearing, beautiful, like, oh, everything is great. And I never get off track, because that can be what's portrayed like in social media, on Instagram, on whatever. But the reality is what you've just talked about, that we can have difficulty building up the practice. We can have difficulty maintaining the practice. And that's all normal. That is totally normal. And so rather than thinking, well, because I'm not like so-and-so, I'm just not going to do it. Or because I fell off, I'm not going to restart. Or because I only did it for 2 days and it didn't work, I'm going to just give up. Like, no, give yourself the grace and the space. That's been one of my favorite phrases lately, grace and space, to, get back on track, because that this is like, I think we are at the place, I know you were on the forefront of talking about, these kinds of things as practice years ago. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing now is if you talk to most people, they've heard about mindfulness and they've heard about the benefits of meditation. So we know it here. It's just like all the other things that we know are good here: eating right, being healthy, exercising. We know it here. How do we bring it down here? And this process takes time. So we need the grace and space to be able to do it and not judge that the process isn't perfect.
Yeah. And we really get it from both ends. I think we have that self-judgment. Mm-hmm. Social media, you see, somebody sitting on like a expensive meditation pillow in her beautiful home, and she's like always zen. And you tell yourself, she's always like that, or he's always like that. First of all, not true. Nobody's ever like that all the time, which is why this is a practice. And I think that we really give it to ourselves and judge ourselves. But then we also have like this commercialist media of like, go do this. That's going to take a long time. Do this. Like, buy this thing. Take this pill. Do this thing. It's quicker and easier, and it's going to give you the same result. And that's just not true. And I think that, everything that we know about human behavior is that we will do what it takes to get what we want, but with the least amount of effort and the least amount of time, right? There's that, I'm sure everybody's heard of the marshmallow experiment years ago, where they like put a kid in a room.
Yeah.
Really,
it's actually retrending now on TikTok. Yeah. So
Really?
like I just watched one this morning. Somebody sent it. It was actually one of the Kardashians or something, which I don't usually follow, but it was super cute because the girl, like, so they had a bowl of M&Ms and whoever it was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. You have to wait till I come back and then you can have 3. And like, the girl is like, she's going to get the thing. And then she sits back and then she starts singing a song about patience, patience. I'm going to have patience. It was adorable. Yeah.
I could have used that song when I was little. Maybe I,
right.
Yeah. And the whole point of that experiment is like, they give the kid, they said, you can have 1 marshmallow now, but I'm going to leave for 10 minutes. And when I come back, if the marshmallow is still here, you can have another one. It's delay of gratification, right? Why is this important? We just talked about it before. Everything is a process and takes time. So if you're the person that like you earn $100 and you go spend it, because you just want to buy stuff and you earn $100 the next day and then you spend it, like that delay of gratification thing is not working for you. But if you're the type of, you grow up into an adult, and they show this with the study, the most successful people are typically the people who can delay that gratification and to say, okay, I just made $100, but I'm going to save it because I want a house or whatever, like something in the future. And that's saying, I want this badly enough to not get sucked into all the we call it competing reinforcement, right? Like, oh, I could have that now, but that means I can't have that later, right? Like I can buy something every day, or I can have a house in 2 years for a down payment, right? Or I can have that piece of chocolate cake right now, but I'm going to delay that because I want to lose 10 pounds first. Or, I just want any partner, not the partner, right? So you like date whoever is around instead of being like, no, I know who I am. I'm going to more focus on like waiting for that. Like if I meet that right person, right? So everything that we do in life, you'll see this of there is no silver bullet. There is no easy fix. Don't kill the messenger, right? Like this doesn't work. Again, fast food as opposed to like thoughtfully cooked food, So anything that's quick and easy, just most of the time to me sounds too good to be true. But yeah, it's really funny, like with the delay of gratification, it just shows that someone can hang in there long enough through something that doesn't produce immediate results in order to achieve a later outcome. Instead of saying, well, I'd rather just go eat a bag of chips, or I'd rather just like watch TV instead. When people say like, I don't have time to meditate, I'm like, how many hours of TV do you watch? How often are you on Instagram scrolling through, right? What if you took 10 minutes of that time and said, okay, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes and then I can be on Instagram for 50 minutes. If you do an hour a day or whatever, right? It's a first then contingency that we talk about in the course that will help like pull that behavior along.
Yeah. Yeah, it is we are in such that microwave society of I want to feel good right now. And there is that payoff because like you've already talked about, and you talk about more inside the course, you are building a practice. And so you don't have that instant gratification. But the crazy thing about the things that we think are instantly gratifying is they have longer term consequences. So there is a longer term picture in both of those cases. It's just that one builds us and one doesn't. We just get to make the choice. And so I think a big part of that is like when you're talking about dating and understanding like who you are and what value you have, that's the same for any of these things. And so what are you worth? Are you worth the building the practice and having the payoff in the long run of having strong meditation practice? Or are you worth doing the thing that's quick and easy right now? You are very much worth that longer term picture, and you have what it takes to get there. You just have to implement the things that Gianna talks about both in this live and in the course. It isn't like, I love that you say it's simple, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. Because that's a really great thing just to come back to and be like, okay, it's simple, carving out 8 minutes of my day and focusing on something, breathing well, bringing my thoughts back to one point. That is simple. That's not a complex thing. We don't have to spend 3 hours explaining how to do that.
Not rocket science, right?
But the actual practice of it is what is not easy. But like anything, it will become easier. So
yeah, I've noticed, especially in the well-being space, we have human bodies, right? The rules we're always going to be the same, right? Like I I always say, like, experiment with yourself when people are like, oh, what should I eat? And what exercise is best? And what meditation practice is best for me? Because there are hundreds. It's like, you have to do what's best for you. And the benefit to that is you can turn this into like a luxurious learning experience of, oh man, I get to wear my favorite sweatpants because I'm meditating this morning, right? Or like, oh, after I meditate, I get that like my favorite latte, and I'm all zen out and I get to sit on the back and just kind of enjoy the benefits of my coffee, right? Like this isn't like a forceful chore that you need to thrust upon yourself. Like, it has become a part in my day that I do see as luxurious, like a bath or like a massage or whatever. But it changes you much more than those very temporary things like a bath or a massage or something like that. So, I hear a lot of people say, I want to be that type of person that can do that, but I'm just not. It's like, well, you're right. You're not, because you're telling yourself that story. Like, how can you disrupt that? You're not right now, but you also weren't a great, whatever you are right now, 15 years ago, right?
Yes.
Hey, when you were born, you couldn't walk, and now look at you. You're perfect at it, right? Like, you're great at walking today. So, think about, like, open your mind a little bit. And if you really want to become something, then go do it. Like, get out of your way. I think a lot of times we are in our way. And I always say, ask people, like, why? Why are you getting in your own way? Because there's a reason there. And I think addressing that fear and that question is, again, like, it just starts tearing your ego. That's why I love doing this in the workplace with leaders, because, I talked about the example of like being a better parent, not freaking out at your kids or your spouse or whatever. But in leadership, I mean, wouldn't it be nice to be an executive right now who can practice mindfulness and meditation when everybody's inundating you with like, what's happening? And am I going to have a job? And that is just a lot, right? Yeah. So when you get to a state where you can go back into the world and be the leader that you want to lead and lead from the inside, right? I think that's so much more authentic and true when we talk about leadership, as opposed to like, let me go through all my, what are my leadership books? Like, who's preparing me for this? What do I do? It's like, guess what? No one's coming, right? Like, you have to be there for yourself and put yourself in this space and do what's best for you and your team or your family or whoever is on that journey with you, whoever's in this with you.
Yeah. I can't wait for people to dive in and take the whole full course, because what you've given us today, like, people could take what you've taught today and really get in and start or go back to their practice. But if they need more resources, I am telling you, so this is a 3-part course inside of this work from home bundle. So inside of the bundle, there are over 30 different courses. 3 of them are Gianna's course talking about stress, meditation, and how to set up and maintain that meditation practice. And her courses are so powerful. So a couple of weeks ago, I was having, I think I had been on that running on adrenaline, getting through dealing with all the stresses and the changes that were happening in the world. And then I hit my own wall and had this week where I just was like, I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling despair. I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm really sad. I'm having a hard time getting back to a positive thinking space. And inside the bundle, we've got courses that are like very practical day-to-day work related things, but also these soul care things, which are about mindset and what's happening internally. And that powers so much of what actually happens in our world. And so I did the things like that you talked about. I went to my friends and I said, hey, listen, I need extra support. And for me, one of the ways that you can do that is to check in with me. So you initiate and you check in with me. Don't wait for me to come to you and say, hey, I'm having a bad day. I would love it if you could check in with me. So identifying the need that I had and asking for that support, using the support that you have around you. And then I spent some time journaling and meditating in my short way. And then I was like, what other resources do I have? And I was like, well, hello, I have access to all of these courses. And the soul care section is so robust. And so I did your 3. I went back and rewatched your 3. And then I rewatched a couple of the other ones in that soul care area. And I'm telling you that was such a critical part of being able to pull myself back out of that spiral that I was in. And so using these resources it's so powerful. And we've put this package together, like everybody came together, all these experts from so many different areas. came together and created and recorded content specifically to help people adapt in this season right now. And because we did it collaboratively, we're able to do it with at such a great price. So I would have paid $147 just for your 3 courses. But for $147, people get your courses plus all of these other courses from experts, all the way from like, how do you set up your office to how do you feng shui your desk? We've got nutritionists talking about how can you eat for more energy? How can you eat to feel younger? How can you set up your kitchen in a way that helps it be easier for you to make meals? How do you deal with having to homeschool when that was not part of your plan? So we've got a whole spectrum of things to help you wherever you are, whether you've just started working from home or you've been doing it for a long time. Especially I want to talk to the people who are entrepreneurs, because we are used to being the ones who are like, all right, we're adapting, we're figuring out, we're shifting, we're doing the new thing. So when all the COVID stuff happened, I think a lot of entrepreneurs just dug in and were like, all right, we're going to power through this. We're going to do this. We got this. We got this. But you're probably getting to a point now where you're hitting that burnout, because like Gianna talked about earlier, you are wondering, like, when is this going to end? There's not a foreseeable, we don't know for sure what the future is going to look like. There's so much uncertainty. And so this is one very simple way of knowing that you don't have to do this alone. So I put the link. It's Gianna's specific link. So you get the special pricing. This actually is a $499 package, but if you use her link, you get it for $147, and then you have lifetime access. These courses are available to you whenever you want to go back to them. You just go back in and take whichever courses you want to take. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of this, this robust resource. And I'm telling you, just Gianna's courses are worth the $147, and then you get all those extra ones as bonuses. So is there anything else that you want to mention about the courses or tips that you just want to give people?
Yeah, I would say, for people who already have been working from home or are like, nah, I don't need this, I got it. I'm actually doing a version of this with Simon Sinek's team in a couple of weeks, and they have been working from home since the beginning of being on Simon's team. And they had come to me, and I have a relationship with them from a past thing. And they're like, we do these learn, share, grows within our team. And even though everybody's always been remote, there's like a giant elephant in the room that's very distracting called COVID, right? And we haven't been in this space before. I've worked from home for several years, and I still am like, I need to go back to a more intense, longer meditation practice, because I need a stronger ally in this. Like I'm having trouble focusing, and it has really helped. So yeah, I'm excited to work with Simon's team in a couple of weeks on this. And even though they're working remotely, like they still need, still said that they needed this and it was valuable. And I would say another valuable thing about these courses is that life is a series of peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. This is not the last time in our lives any of us are going to face uncertainty, right? Yeah. Even if there's never another global epidemic, even if we never see anything like this again, which doesn't look like the case, but assuming that, just saying that is the case, life is, it's ups and downs. So even if it's not, even if you go back and you never work from home again, all of these tools are going to help you at some point where you hit a point of adversity, where you need to take care of yourself, where you need to design your home in a certain way, right? Maybe you move and you're like, man, I've got a smaller kitchen now. Oh, I can go back to that, the kitchen design, or, oh my gosh, like I'm about to have a kid and I'm really stressed out. Oh, I can go back to the meditation course and read that. So these are just, we're doing this because people need it because they're working from home, but these are life skills that we will need during tough times individually, as a family, as a company, or as a community and a planet throughout the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's so well said. And because it's lifetime access, people can go back whenever they need to go back. So and I will tell you too, we continue to add more courses. So this is not like it's a static library of courses and it's just going to be that way forever. We continue to add courses. And then we're also looking at other ways of supporting people. One of the things that I think is so cool about the way that this project is set up, as opposed to, like, say somebody could go buy like a master class, like you see a lot of the advertising now about, purchase. They're great. I am not knocking them at all. But the thing that's different with this project is you can actually connect in real life with the instructors. And so after, each instructor, if you go to their course, you can see how to connect with them on social media, emails, whatever it is. Like, there are ways to connect. So if you've got follow-up questions, we also have a private Facebook group that is to support people and work from home, so that if you've got extra questions, if you need extra support, there's ways that you can connect or work with people outside of just taking their courses. And so that makes this project really unique. And I'm really just excited because there's such stellar people. Like you guys hear it today. Like, Gianna knows what she's talking about. She's got this incredible background in understanding human behavior and education. So like, this isn't just somebody who's like, I think I know. Like, she has studied this. And she's built businesses around understanding the way that humans behave and what helps us function more efficiently, more healthy. And so she is one of a stellar team of people who know what they're talking about and understand what it's like to work from home. So Gianna, just thank you so much for being a part of the team and for giving such valuable courses inside of this bundle. And I am so thankful that our paths have connected. And I just hope too that the people who have spent the time watching and listening, that they believe enough that, listen, we're talking to you right now, we believe in you enough that you can go do this and have the impact of meditation in your life. Whatever it's been for you in the past, let that go, and you're starting a new chapter. You can do this. Take the tools that she has given you today, get the course and go in and dive deeper with what she gives you inside of there. And let this be the beginning of a new way of you doing life, of a new way of believing that you can do the things that you've been limiting yourself on. And we are here to support you, and we've got you. We're in this together. All right.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Kidding.